back out to the Hill tonight and every night this week. We'll be monitoring all things as they head to Fenway and then back home against the Tampa Rays this weekend. But it is a purple kingdom around here right now. So says Solomon's Wisdom. He called the game for CBS over the weekend. He is Solomon Wilcots, our defending champion and old friend, still hanging out in Cincinnati, but coming to an AFC host city near you. Solly, nice effort by the Ravens on Sunday. I mean, I'm not going to go all crazy, but a win is a win, and I saw lots of good things for John Harbaugh and the staff to take out of the game.
Hey, there's no doubt. And the Baltimore Ravens, you remember, they used to dominate week one to start a season, but over the last 3 years, they've really struggled to get that opening day win. But they were able to get it on Sunday against a really good Buffalo Bills team, particularly a defense that was trying to get after Joe Flacco. Saw some encouraging things. I saw Joe Flacco still being able to be Joe Flacco, make the big-time throws. And then I saw a wide receiving core. Brashad Perriman looks like he's going to be a factor this year. Looks like Mike Wallace is going to be able to stretch the field and really lift coverage so that Steve Smith, who also came back from a season-ending injury, can work underneath. This wide receiving core as a group, far better than anything they put on the field 1 year ago.
Well, there's certainly more depths and more matchup issues. I mean, you start to see Steve Smith move over into the slot, and he feels like they want to use him as more of a possession guy at this point. Certainly caught the ball the most. Different roles for these guys. But obviously Mike Wallace, who I guess has been sort of dismissed the last couple of years since he left Pittsburgh and sort of bouncing around with Miami and Minnesota, this may be a real good marriage here.
Oh, it's going to be great because here's the deal. We travel all around this league, and it's almost unanimous. You talk to coaches around the league, everyone knows that Joe Flacco has one of the best deep balls in the National Football League. He can throw it deep. And you go back to that big-time play in Denver that really ignited the Super Bowl run to Jacoby Jones. Since then, he's torched teams for the 9 years that he's been in this league. And you saw it in Sunday's game with a 66-yard bomb to Mike Wallace. What that does, it reinvigorates Mike Wallace in his career. It helps Joe to feel like he has someone that he can rely on since he had Torrey Smith in terms of somebody who could get deep consistently. It makes coming to practice every day and going into these games knowing that you've got everything at your disposal to really hurt the opposing defense. And I think that's got to be exciting for the Baltimore Ravens.
He is Solomon Wilcots. It is Solomon's Wisdom out on Twitter and, of course, calling the action. And, I guess the one thing for the Ravens is we were wondering who was going to catch the ball. Then we see him line up out there. I mean, Pitta didn't practice much at all. Smith, not on the field much at all. Obviously, Perryman's issues well documented. To have all of those guys out there at the same time, having never really run around in any sort of competitive environment, there was a little fire drill going on, Solly. I mean, there were a couple times Flacco's trying to line guys up. They had to burn a timeout. I guess that's to be expected at this point, but there's a lot of guys out there that have had a lot of success in this league, just not all working together. It would have been nice to have seen a half of that in Game 3 of the preseason, but it wasn't available.
Well, you saw both teams. I mean, how about the Buffalo Bills? They had to burn timeouts on 2 third downs in the second half. They were playing at the end of the game with one timeout, didn't have a lot at their disposal because they had some of the same issues. This is the effect of not wanting to really get anybody hurt in the preseason. You use the preseason for player evaluation. Those guys you're going to have your team are not going to play a whole lot. So they knew Flacco, Brashad Perriman and Wallace and Pitta, they knew they would be part of the 53. So now you're just trying to make sure that they get ready to play. But some of the nuances of being on the same page in terms of communication and really having to do so under the clock in terms of expedite getting lined up and be in perfect formations can be very difficult. And that's why I say week one is still at a point of discovery for coaches. I mean, they're the teams, and you're going to find out what you got. But, and you're right, it's great to have all of them on the field finally, and they are going to have to grow over the next few weeks in terms of developing chemistry. But the left side of that offensive line where you had 2 rookies, okay, when you had Lewis and Ronnie Stanley and left guard and left tackle, I thought they played extremely well against a really good defensive front. in this game on Sunday. I think that's something to be encouraged by.
Well, yeah, that's a building block there for sure. And I mean, as a former player, do you marvel that Dennis Pitt is out there doing this at this point, and that Steve Smith could come back from such a heinous injury at that point in his career? And okay, maybe he won't be the burner anymore going down the field, but maybe a guy that can catch 5-7 balls every week and get you 2 or 3 third down conversions.
And he gives you a toughness. He gives you a mentality. But when you go out and attack opposing teams, Steve Smith is a fighter. He is going to will this team to successful moments in games and in successful outcome of games. And that kind of energy spread. Think about the kind of player that Brashard Perriman can become from spending a season playing with Steve Smith. Think about how that affects other young players, okay, whether it's the young running back Dixon, or whether it's a young tight end and Crockett Gilmore, whether it's your young offensive lineman. That's kind of the Raven way. And, you know, it was spread down from older players like Ray Lewis and Ed Reed to T. Sizzle, and now they're giving that energy to some of these young players. So I think it's critical to have someone like Steve Smith around, not just because of that, because he can produce on the field as well in terms of critical catches at key moments in ball game.
You know, being around the team in preseason, the people that I know that have really watched them run around out there in the heat in August have said that the defense would play faster, and that was a huge part of what Dean Pease and what Ozzie was trying to do in the offseason, whether it was Correa or any of the draft picks they made on that side of the football after the Ronnie Stanley thing was let's get faster. Certainly felt like they were flowing to the ball, and it certainly felt like a different backside of this defense than what we've seen since let's say Ed Reed left and went over to Buffalo to coach.
Albert McClellan, Tim Jernigan, some of these young players on the defensive side of the ball. I thought Therese Wright really surprised me. I thought he played very well in Sunday's game. I even saw Jimmy Smith make improvements. You know, he's been banged up for last year and a half or so. I thought in 2014, at the beginning of the year, he was playing as well as any corner in the league. And then he was injured, and then last year you could tell he wasn't quite himself. But I thought he did a wonderful job in Sunday's game against Sammy Watkins. So, yeah, playing much faster with a lot of these younger players are now starting to really come on. It's hard to keep a quarterback like Tyrod Taylor hemmed in and not allow him to lose contain. You saw where he was able to spin out one time where they presumably had him sacked. He was able to get the ball down the field on the 33-yard gain to his tight end, Charles Clay. But that was really maybe the only magical moment where they kind of let him get out and create with his legs. For the most part, I thought the defense played very well on the front end and on the back end and not allowing the Bills to have any of those big pass plays they were accustomed to one season ago.
He is Solomon Wilcott. Solomon's Wisdom is out there on Twitter for you to follow, and thousands do. And, of course, he called the game on Sunday. To the Buffalo side for a moment. I'll come back to the Ravens, Sally, but tough loss to start the season. They knew it was sort of uphill coming in, having all the players missing, the draft picks, Darius, and all of that. Now they have to pick up the pieces on Thursday night, go see a Jets team that I know Cincinnati, Marvin's guys took care of barely on Sunday as well. And one of those teams is going to wake up Friday morning with an 0-2 hangover. It's going to be a bad start to the season. And, I can't say that there's much to recommend the Bills based on what I saw, that they're going to win a lot of football games this year.
I could tell you this. The Jets are a really good football team. I think the Jets are right now going to be ahead of what I saw in terms of Sunday on with the Buffalo Bills, because I do think Sammy Watkins is still suffering from the effects of off-season foot surgery. He didn't appear to be 100% being able to come out of his breaks. And how many times did they try to drive the ball down the field to him? Remember, last year, Tyrod Taylor tied Russell Wilson for the most touchdowns, a total of 12, or 20 yards or more down the field. I mean, no one threw the ball deep more and scored more than Tyrod Taylor and the Buffalo Bills did 1 year ago. And they didn't push the ball at all down the field on Sunday. They didn't try to get deep at all. And I think that was the effect of understanding where Sammy Watkins' health is at this point. And so right now we're hearing that they could even shut him down. And so that's not encouraging, because they don't have another receiver that can say, okay, well, You take Sammy Watkins out, who's going to be our vertical threat? Well, there is no go-to there. Whereas if you are the New York Jets, you've got multiple weapons in Brandon Marshall and Eric Decker. Matt Forte is going to be phenomenal. The offense was able to score and was able to do well. And that defense, they had 7 sacks on Andy Dalton. 7 sacks. If you go back and take a look at the hit chart for the New York Jets in Sunday's game against the Bengals, if you looked at that and didn't look at the score, you'd think the Jets had won that game. It was just really the kryptonite for them was A.J. Green, which I'm sure everybody in Baltimore knows about A.J. Green.
Yeah, the island of Revis must be like sort of global warming coming up on the – I tell you, he's struggled, but A.J. Green might be the best receiver in the NFL right now.
Clearly, A.J. Green is comfortable on Revis Island. He's got a condo. In fact, he might be opening up a hotel.
Beachfront, yeah, with a view. Exactly. Nice breeze. No mosquitoes either. Solomon Wilcott's here. I want to get back to the Ravens because, look, we could talk about, Weddle and Wallace and the new guys and, how much Ben Watson would have meant to this team and talk about all the guys coming back, whether it's Suggs and Smith and Pitta. But really, this is about Flacco because they're going to go as he goes. Certainly good enough on Sunday, but the overwhelming story here, I think, all summer long has been, hey, did he have an injury last year at all? And I guess the bad news on Sunday was that you talk about the Jets smacking around Dalton. For me, Flacco got hit more on Sunday than I've seen him get hit in a long, long time, and that's got to stop. That better not be a trend.
Yeah, I was concerned. I said at one point in the game, he looked, Joe to me had always been surprisingly mobile for 6'6", 245 guy. I always thought he moved very well.
And he's a guy who didn't want to run, but if you made him run, usually you regretted it. He doesn't because he didn't run backwards. Right.
Exactly right. And so it wasn't like he said, "Oh, I'm getting out of here." But if he had to do it now, he'd break you down and hurt you. And so, but I saw him reluctant to even try to take off. There were moments where I thought he could have extended a play. He was very reluctant. But in saying that. And that's not a knock on Joe because he was very courageous. I thought he displayed tremendous courage standing in there and hanging in there. I mean, there were times he was waiting for guys to get open. And as you mentioned, there were some miscues where he expected guys to go one spot. They didn't go where they were supposed to go, and he kind of had to dump it just to avoid the sack. But he still got hit. I thought he played phenomenal on Sunday in terms of just being patient with his receivers, hanging in the pocket, knowing he was going to take a hit, but allowing them as much time as they needed to get open. They do have to speed up that process of getting the ball out of his hands faster, which means the receivers are going to have to make themselves available sooner. And so I just thought Joe played one heck of a game considering the fact that he was hanging in the pocket and being very patient and very poised, which is what he's known for. But he was taking some hits having to do that.
It's almost unfair, right? Because you're like, well, you want him to scramble, but you don't want him to scramble. You don't want him to dirt the ball, right, with the play in progress. You want him to see the play through. So he really doesn't have any choice but to either stand there and wait for someone to get open and unloaded or to take off. And I'm sure taking off is not something any of us really want to see him do, right?
No. I think he understood where he is in this whole deal. He's going to tell you, I'm fine. But then as he gets, say, next year in 2017, he'll say, 1 year off of that knee injury, I wasn't quite myself. That's how players are. They're going to always say, I'm fine. But then once they get removed from the situation, once they really get back to 100%, then they kind of fully admit that, it took me a while to get back to where I needed to be. So he's going to fight his way through this. He's still got that big-time arm. I still saw him drive the ball. He was flat-footed at times. He still drove the ball with great accuracy. I think he and Pitta are going to continue to be magical. I just found myself holding my breath, hoping that every time Pitta made a play, and he made some great catches, that he got back up and he was fine. And because I'm a big fan of Dennis Pitta.
Who doesn't root for Dennis Pitta? I mean, seriously, right?
Yeah, you have to. And then remember that run in 2012, they're not putting a Super Bowl ring on the fingers there in Baltimore without that chemistry that Pitta and Flacco had. We know they have a great relationship. You could tell because it manifests itself on the field with some of those catches. Remember that deep ball down the middle on Sunday, and Flacco kind of just put it in an area, and Pitter made a great adjustment to make that catch over the middle of the field. I'd love to see them make more plays like that because they've got great plays in them that will do that franchise very well.
Solomon Wilcott's joining us here from the broadcast team, Sunday's game. He is at Solomon's Wisdom out on Twitter, and there's always wisdom there. Last piece of wisdom I need from you, Sally, is the run game. There's going to be nothing better for Joe than if they can run the ball better. I know we all fell in love with Dixon and the sort of the water bug look that he gave us before the injury. West and Forsett, every time Forsett touches the ball, I don't just cheer for him. I really marvel at watching football as long as I've been watching it. I don't know that I've ever seen a running back have the kind of patience and seeing holes. Now, all that being said, it needs to be consistent, and this offensive line, if Lewis is going to stay in there and play at this point, and obviously Stanley, it's going to grow into something. The running game wasn't where it needs to be, but I saw some signs of life that it could be good, and this committee thing where Forsett doesn't have to lug the ball 25, 28 times, that's probably not a bad idea either.
I saw good things, to be honest with you. I'll tell you what concerned me. It was really the offensive line because you're not used to Yonder Marshall getting, offsides penalties or, not being quite ready. I mean, he's a phenomenal player. We know that. But this was first game type stuff of working out the bugs. You're not used to, Jeremy Zutaw snapping the ball when Flacco's not ready and creating a fumble. What was happening there, just when the run game was getting going or a drive was getting going, those critical penalties and turnovers or mistakes by the offensive linemen would set them back.
Well, and veteran guys too, right? I mean, that's the weird part. They'll straighten that out.
Game.
Yeah, they'll straighten that out.
The first game. Yeah, they'll work that out. But that's what affected the run game. That sort of affected the inability to run the ball or took away opportunities when you're behind the sticks and facing third and long, and then it takes you out of your ability to run the ball effectively. And so I thought there were some good moments. I saw the same thing you saw, good moments of the run game. Obviously, Joe Flacco was on top of his game. They were playing with the lead. I thought they were able to manage the game very well. But, yeah, you're right. Run game does have to improve. The offensive line and their continuity is going to have to improve.
Well, when your kicker can kick 50-yard field goals, too, that really helps. And, I mean, one of the stories lost in this whole thing was Tucker made 3 kicks and only got credit for 2. They pulled 3 points off the board, and that always stirs me up on Twitter. Nothing makes me, here's where the story changes. We're going to take points off, take the yards, and go try to get a touchdown and try to kick again. We've seen these kickers missing extra points at this point. Hey, one missed by Tucker at 50, one make by Carpenter at 49, and it's 10-10, and we're still playing.
There was no doubt about that. It was very tough, but hey, they gave him a new set of downs. Someone says, "Hey, do you want to take the field goal, or do you want to take a whole new set of downs?"
You're going to take the downs, but it changes the narrative. But the story changes there, right? A fumble, a sack, a pick, a missed field. All these things can happen at that point in what was a 3-point game at the time.
I'm taking the downs every time.
Of course you are.
I got all that time on the clock. I'm taking the downs.
But pulling the points off after you kick a 50-yarder, makes me a little nervous. That's all. Hey, man, tell me what you're doing out there, because I know you're doing some great stuff for Alzheimer's, the Huddle Up program. Educate our audience here in Baltimore about that, Solly.
Well, it's the campaign is called Huddle Up for New Alzheimer's Treatments. We're trying to raise awareness for people to participate in clinical trials. There are new drugs, new treatments to help treat Alzheimer's, which plagues some 5 million Americans nationally. And there's been no new treatments that have been approved by the FDA in over the last 10 years.
Wow.
But we have signs that there are new treatments available. We just need to get them approved by the FDA. So when people participate in clinical trials, there are no drugs that are made available to us in the United States that haven't gone through the approval process by the FDA. But it does take brave men and women making themselves available for these clinical trials before those new treatments are made available. And that's what we want to raise awareness for.
You know, I know you were doing that out at the Super Bowl, too, and I tip my cap. You know, all we've done for the Bone Marrow Registry and some other causes that are near and dear. It's great to have a cause, and I'm glad to promote your cause. It was really great seeing you on Sunday, and, hey, we hope to see you down the line. I mean, I'll be running around Cleveland this week and Jacksonville next week. I'm sure our paths will cross.
Absolutely, and look forward to talking to you as the season progresses.
Always a pleasure. Solomon's Wisdom is the way to follow Solomon Wilcott's out on Twitter. Of course, he was in the booth with Spiro Ditas on Sunday, and he'll be running around the country with him. And I think they're 3 years deep in this. Took some great pictures out on their Twitter. Also, pictures in the booth. When you follow Solly out on Twitter, you see the shots of all the cards and stuff that the broadcast. I don't know. That's a whole different science than what I sit here and do and talk about sports for a living. But I always marvel at the play-by-play and the color side of things. Great to have Solly on. You can find me out in the Bayou Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device, including in Cincinnati, where he is, or over the river and through the woods, wherever you are heading, including over to Germany. I was listening to WNST over there. Download podcasts, listen when you want, how you want, where you want. It is the Bayou Toyota Audio Vault. We'll have Eric Weddle next week out doing a swabbing for the Bone Marrow Registry on Tuesday night with Adams Jeep up in Aberdeen. I'll have some more details for you on our Twitter and our social media, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram. We're all the places that you are, including streaming live on Facebook as well as on YouTube on our WNSTV channel. Our morning newspaper hits your email inbox at 7 a.m. each and every morning, and that's brought to you, of course, by our friends at Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com, where it's still $10 a month to get in the best shape of your life. Don't forget, we're at Buffalo Wild Wings in Owings Mills every Monday night with the best seat in the house and the wing eating competition. I think we're going to go Facebook Live on the wing eating competitions beginning this year, too. That'll be kind of fun. And last but never least, if there's any breaking news while the Orioles are up at Fenway Park this week or headed back home against Tampa, you'll get it first, whether it's purple or orange, on the WNST Tech Service. That is brought to you by our friends at Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Dennis will be here on Thursday driving you home from 3 until 5 and getting you ready for Thursday Night Football as well as the Orioles' long and very, very important homestand. And I'll have a very, very important blogs from a very, very unimportant individual on the Orioles' attendance woes and issues here now that the kids are back at school. I'm Nestor. Nasty at WNST.net reaches me anytime, anywhere. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Taos in Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.